Hello everyone, welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game news and stories right here for your listening or viewing pleasure on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Joining me this week, we have Mr. Chris.
Hey gamers, hope you're well.
And of course, Mr. Rob.
Hello, I also hope you're well.
We've got a great show lined up for you where we'll be talking about the reviews for Forza, Assassin's Creed, Cyberpunk getting live action, is ABK finally over the line. But before getting to that, make sure you haven't already, you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all of amazing content here at GamerGuildTV, such as our weekly podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, every single Monday on YouTube and podcast services, our weekly live streams, where last week I was playing Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. More about that in a bit. And we also have a merch store, all the links in the descriptions below. Chris, we'll start with you. Been playing anything interesting?
So this is a busy month for me, also with work-related things, but at the same time, I got FC24 last week. I got Assassin's Creed Mirage delivered this week, and of course, we all know Spider-Man 2 comes out in like 2 weeks' time, so October is a crazy month for me, but thankfully, like similar to you, Richie, FC24, aka FIFA, will just be my kind of go-to back and forth over the next 9 to 10 months. So no pressure to complete manager mode on that one. I've got real world sports to keep me ticking over. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Mirage, I'm not going to talk about here because I'll wait till we get to the review section of the show, but really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to talking a little bit more in depth about it. So yeah just those two for me.
How is FC23? Because I haven't bought it yet.
More of the same. Really enjoying it. Graphically looks great, running on my PlayStation 5. Started a manager mode, as you always do. Gone for Newcastle United.
Correct team.
Newcastle United, yeah, both good decisions. And I've cranked the difficulty up. I'm chipping away. I'm making some transfers. One of the things that is quite odd, which has never really happened to me before in career mode, is a lot of big teams are coming to me with big transfers. So inside sports here, boys and girls, apologies, but Chelsea came to me with an offer for Miggy Almirion with a for 5 million cash offer, plus they want to swap me with Conor Gallagher. So I took a brand new up and coming young prospect and 5 million for Miggy, and I know he's a good player, but I was like, I'll take that deal.
If you're planning to buy another right winger already, then yeah, I'd take that deal.
So
for all you
it's done that.
I'm nodding so politely right now, with no knowledge of what is going on.
You love Wrexham, Rob. You love welcome to Wrexham.
I love Rob McElhenney, okay?
Yeah. That's anything he touches. But yeah, inside scoop, yeah, it's more FIFA, but I'm enjoying it. And if you're a football fan, you'll enjoy it regardless. And you're going to buy it regardless, so why even talk or review about it or anything, because that's how it goes. It'd
have to be absolutely terrible for it to lose its like core demographic, or something else, another game to come, considering Pro Evo Soccer no longer really exists. It's like eFootball, and it's just basically terrible. They've got the market con. That's probably one of the things that led them to parting with FIFA, because we don't even need this license to stay on top.
They don't. The sales in the UK especially have still been like, it's top sales charts. I think it's sold more year on year as well. So evidently dropping the FIFA brand has done nothing but benefit them in some ways. And although they have marketed it extra heavy this year, but it's obviously been needed to make sure.
But they've probably had extra money for the marketing budget because they're not paying FIFA for the license.
I'd hope
4 letters.
So. It would be very naive and foolish of them to rebrand after 25, 30 years of FIFA and not think we might need to crank up the budget a little bit on our audience marketing.
Yeah. It might have been a different story if Pro Evo, back in the early 2000s where they were basically going head for head. If that was still the case, then this might have been a different decision.
But I agree, but
Rob.
Long live FIFA.
Long live FIFA. Rob, what have you been playing?
I'm 100% in space on my gaming at the moment. It's a nice little blend between, obviously, the ever-present Starship Troopers Extermination, which I'm still playing, along with 300 other people, and that's it.
Is it dwindling?
It always happens with these early release games. An update comes out, the player base kind of moves on, because it's only a £12 game.
Is it still in early access as well?
Oh yeah, super early access. So the content's not too deep and stuff like that. So that's cool. But other than that, it's been a split between Cyberpunk and Starfield, based primarily on kind of where I'm sitting like determines which game I play. So really nice first impressions of Cyberpunk. Starfield, again, I feel might suffer from this glut of games that are going to come out from essentially like this week onwards, right? Like it doesn't really stop in the run up to Christmas. So that might take a bit of a backseat, but still enjoying it, loving Cyberpunk, and Starship Troopers will always be there because I'm a true citizen.
Yeah. Would you like to know more? With Starfield, I think it's one of them games where it's had this massive hype moment, and then it's going to go quiet in the news cycle because there's a lot of other stuff coming around. And then we're going to be talking, suddenly next year, we're going to be talking about, it's been a year since Starfield, how's it doing? And like the current Steam numbers are just still going to be huge. I think it's just going to be one of them sort of games.
I think the mod community is going to fire up over the next couple of months.
It's going to be one of them. It's no longer in the limelight, but it's still doing big things.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I was actually watching a spiffing Brit stream last night, actually, and he was playing like Skyrim with like 1,000 mods on. But it's like a survival mode, so he's got 100 days to complete the game. So it's like, you're going to see these sort of mods come to Starfield as well.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same. I haven't been playing Starfield. I'm done with that for now. But again, I think I will probably pick up periodically throughout the next 10 years.
Yeah. What have you been playing out of interest?
Sea of Stars. I've been absolutely grinding through Sea of Stars, and I'm having an absolute blast with it. I think I'm getting towards the end of the main story, probably about 25 hours in. But I think it's a great game, to be honest. It is a bit of a throwback to like a kind of Chrono Trigger kind of style game. That's not a bad thing. And it's just the story's really engaging. It doesn't feel like absolutely, sometimes when you jump in like a JRPG, it just feels too big, too unwieldy, too unmanageable. Mm-hmm. It feels like you're just slowly building up through the story as you go, and you're unlocking more areas. At no point do you feel like there's way too much stuff to do. So it feels like I'm always making progress. And there's never, while there is side questy stuff to do, there's never too much at one period of time that you don't go for like 10 hours without engaging in the main story. So it's never really losing that momentum. That's
always pushed me off the genre a little bit, because I don't know if it's just a bad experience or bad picking of the games, but like the learning curve on some systems which are not particularly kind of familiar to Western kind of gamers, like they're difficult sometimes.
Well, yeah, with Sea of Stars, the mechanics, they're not incredibly deep. But what you do get is, as you progress through the story, you get new characters, and so you get a new set of abilities, and there's always like a time button presses to do like additional attacks or additional damage or even like additional like defense. But so as you get in new characters, you add new combo skills into it, so you can combine between different characters. But it never feels overwhelming because it's just slowly adding more and more throughout the course of the gameplay. But with ever out actually, what's the word? It's like the core mechanics are always going to be basically the same, but it's not deep. It's broad, and it's just getting wider and wider as you go. So it's very approachable in that sense. It's also got a bit of tongue-in-cheek charm about it, because it was a Kickstarter game, and Gerard the Completionist.
Oh yeah.
He's in the game. He's an actual character in the game. Not a playable character, but he is in one of the towns. So it's like, I'm guessing he was a major Kickstarter backer. So there's stuff like that where it doesn't really take itself too seriously. There's this giant stone golem thing that acts as part of the fast travel system. It's called Yeet, and it literally throws you across the map. So it's got like that little bit of like comedic charm. It doesn't take itself too seriously while still actually telling a really interesting story. So I'm 100% hooked.
That's good. I'm glad for Sea of Stars. It's one of those, it's like almost like being a sleeper hit. Where you obviously saw the trailer way back when. I think it was Game Awards first. It's like, that looks pretty, that looks fun. And then when it came
having
up
a lot
to,
of buzz around it.
Yeah, like stellar reviews, and then it chose to come out in such a busy period, but I feel like it's still got its like flowers almost for like, you've still done great, well done. And it most likely is definitely in the running for Indie Game of the Year.
I think it's got it personally. I really do.
Yeah, I can't really think of many others off the top. I'm sure when we get to the end of the year and we start chatting about it and we put our list together, it's like, oh, there's loads of them, but...
I mean, technically, Larion's an indie studio, if you go that deep.
You know what I mean.
But, you're
Yeah.
not really looking at Baldur's Gate as an indie game, are you?
No.
That's
I think AAA kind of separates it out a bit. But, yeah, other than that, I can think in my head, I'm thinking, like, off the top of my head, it's like Planet of Lana, maybe?
Yeah, I think...
It's good, but other than that...
I think there's a bit more to Sea of Stars, though.
Oh, I think there is as well, and I haven't even played it.
But... Yeah, so Sea of Stars. Other than that, my live stream was Ocarina of Time, which, again, as I was talking on the stream, was like, I just saw my Nintendo Switch Pro controller on my desk, and when I was thinking about what I wanted to stream, so I bought a Switch Pro with the expansion pass to get all the N64 games, and when flicking, when you're just flicking through, like, you're just doom scrolling, I went, Ocarina of Time, that's it. I haven't played that in years. I want to play it, so that's what I'm streaming.
It hasn't had a remaster or anything, has it?
No, it's the N64 game, warts and all, just ported onto the Switch via online. So it's basically Switch Online, the N64 thing, is basically an N64 emulator built into the Switch.
Right. Do you think it's next in the line? I know, was it Link's Awakening we got like 2 years ago?
Technically, Ocarina of Time has had a remake on the 3DS. It had the 3DS remake, but it was a kind of more of a remaster with a few additional features in. It's probably the best way to play that game. But I think, I was talking on stream about this, I think this is the break glass in case of emergency game. I felt for a long time Final Fantasy VII was that for Square. If they ever hit some financial troubles, fund Final Fantasy VII Remake. But it's risky because I don't think you'll ever get the audience happy. Because if you make too many changes, the purists are going to go, what have you done that for? And if you make too few changes, it's just what's the point of even remaking it?
Copy and paste.
Yeah, it suffers from it is one of the fundamental early 3D games, alongside Mario 64. It's kind of what figured out. These are the two games in the N64 that kind of figured out how to work in the 3D space for gaming. So there is kind of some like old stuff in there, but it's actually surprising how many features in that game are just standard now.
Nintendo has been ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
In terms of all the people who've probably heard that game for the last several decades.
Yes.
Just correct me. What the hell is an ocarina again? Is it?
It's an instrument. It's like a flute.
Right. Okay.
But it looks like almost like a. Imagine a sweet potato with a stick out of it, which you blow into. Is that kind of shape?
It's because Flute of Time doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It certainly doesn't.
An ocarina is actually an actual instrument that you can buy. You can go to a lot of music shops and just buy an ocarina.
Not of time, though.
Yeah. You can actually buy an Ocarina of Time. It doesn't have the same magical properties as the one from Zelda.
You've researched this, which I can tell.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've actually
Do
seen
you
Ocarina
own
of
an
Time.
ocarina?
No, I don't. I've been tempted in the past.
Are they expensive?
I have no idea.
Like flutes can't be that expensive, right? Schools buy them, so they must be cheap.
No, it depends. Depends on the flute.
Yeah, like Chris,
Depends how many
music
centuries
instruments
in time
can be
you want to
very
go
expensive. But
just a potato with holes in it, surely not. Richie quickly googling how to buy. It's on Rich's Sounds right now. How much?
£17.
That's pretty cheap then. You're on mute, Richie.
yeah, there's one on £17 for Amazon, but there's various shit remakes by the looks of it that look just terrible. So I think, yeah, for a fine one, you could probably pay like 20, 30 quid, but you can probably go hundreds of pounds if you wanted to, depending on the craftsman. And stuff.
Join us next week for the new episode of Musical Gamers.
Sounds of Ocarina.
Right. Should we actually get into the news? Chris,
I guess so.
Would you like
to talk more about instruments, please?
In that case, Rob, would you like to introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news?
The news. And as always, our news is brought to you by our guild heroes, which you can join for as little as 99p over on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV. Thank you very much for your support. We really appreciate it. Chris, Forza Motorsport. It's coming out soon. Would you like to know what the critics are saying?
I would, considering that said Starfield is the beginning. I was going to say of the end then, but it's not the beginning
of the end.
For
it's the beginning of the end
Xboxes.
of the kind of lull that Xbox has been in.
It is, and this is the second one, so yeah, if it has to hit home, right? That's what Phil Spencer's promised.
It does, but to be fair, I think we've always kind of felt Forza Motorsport was just an easy slam dunk for them. Like, just make a good racing game, which we know they're capable of. And then you're on to the next thing.
It's a tough one to mess up, right?
Yeah.
Like, for the type of purists, because Forza Motorsport it's not the arcade style, so it's almost like akin to the Gran Turismo simulation racer game, where you've got to get that apex right, your speed, your braking, it's all really important. But yeah, visually, it's going to look gorgeous. It's going to play, as you'd expect, a simulation racing game to play. There's going to be a fantastic selection of cars. I'm guessing, this is before I've read any of the review stuff, but tell me about it, Richie. How's it faring out there?
So it is faring pretty solid, to be honest. It's kind of as expected, mainly 8s, some 9s, some 10s. The lowest review I've seen is from Games Radar, which is a 7, so I'll read an excerpt from that. The game engine here is demonstrably better than Forza Motorsport 7's, but in terms of breadth of gameplay, presentation and general excitement and enjoyment gleaned from racing the AI cars, the older, now deleted Forza Motorsport 7 is clearly superior. That's now deleted. They got rid of Forza, just got rid of 7.
They might just mean from his own hard drive. I think he's just been tongue-in-cheek.
Again, I don't have the full context of the review in front of me. More content, including tracks and event series, will be added over time, so it will certainly improve. But right now, the career mode here is so sedate and one note. It's hard to recommend Forza Motorsport 7's offline mode over any of its peers, and that was a 7 out of 10. So my take there is it seems to be like is a bit light on content more than anything. But
see, that's the problem with games like this, though, I feel like now, because the general gist of these games is release the game and then add more maps and add more cars. Like, there's not really much you can do to it, like game modes, and so there's no like first person capture the flag or anything happening with this that gets added later on, or is there, or virus mode or anything. It's very much just you do your races, we flip the maps back to front, we add some new ones in later. But I'm right in thinking this Forza game, it's not a numbered entry. They're just going with it as it's called Forza Motorsport.
Yeah, they seem to have dropped the numbered entries for this game.
So does that set us up for expecting this to maybe be like a platform? With the way Xbox are, with the way they kind of set up the games, like similar to Starfield, it's got a vibe where it's going to be supported like Sea of Thieves for years to come. Are we starting to maybe get away from an annualized or biannualized entry in Motorsport?
Possibly. It'd be an interesting way of actually addressing Games Radar's actual criticism of it, because then what you could start doing is you could start porting content from the previous games. So the last Forza Motorsport was 2017, so it's been 6 years. But if you're seeing this as a platform, and maybe in a few years' time they do the same thing with Forza Horizon, where they just go, this is now just a platform that we're going to build on. I'm not a huge racing game fan, so if you are, let us know in the comments whether you like this idea or you prefer actual new entries all the time. I'm kind of into it.
Just for context on 7 as well, you can't actually buy 7 digitally anymore.
Oh.
You haven't been able to do it for a while because.
Is it car licensing maybe?
Yeah, obviously, like the amount of brands they have in that game is like, I imagine is like a regulatory nightmare. So I think I want to say like maybe the start of 2022 it went off, and you haven't been able to buy it like on Game Pass or Microsoft Store. Obviously, you can still get physical copies and play it and stuff like that. But
physical media.
It might even be the tracks as well. Could be licensed as well.
Yeah, all of it. Like
the music, the
every
cars,
single scrap of that game is like there's some licensing towards it. So no, you haven't been able to get number 7 for quite a while now.
That might,
which seems nuts as a game concept, right? Like you just can't buy. I mean, game.
It doesn't happen with Gran Turismo, so I wonder what the hell's happened there. It seems mad to think you'd put all that effort into the game and then it's just like gone.
It might just depend on the deal they've made, because if they're planning Forza Motorsport, the current one, to be this platform to build off, they might have only built like a relatively short-term license, and if this game's been delayed a few years because of COVID, maybe the license expired on 7 before they got this one out the door.
Yeah, so that seems to be the reason. So reading from a Verge article, it goes in like end of life status, but then it always comes up with problems saying if you're a long-time Forza fan, you've seen it happen before. Horizon 3 was delisted back in 2020. after launching in 2016, and Motorsport 6 was removed from in 2019 following its 2015 launch. The big problem comes up with if you've got Game Pass and you get the game for free, but you've bought the DLC, like you've paid for the DLC content, but you just no longer have access to the game. You're kind of shafted a little bit there. But reading from a tweet from the official Forza Motorsport account, they say Forza games have to be unlisted after several years because the third-party licenses that we use feature real-world cars, tracks, and other elements, which will begin to expire.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen with Gran Turismo, though.
Yeah,
so they're either fucking up in negotiations or they're just rolling over way too easy.
maybe it's just instead of paying for a perpetual license, they're paying for a license for a period of time, knowing the next game's going to replace it. Maybe this is part of the design going forward by dropping the number is to no longer have the need for that. It could just be a shift in that mentality.
Yeah, like looping back to the original point, it definitely makes more sense from a everything perspective to do it as a single state game, right?
And we should be clear as well, like delisted is different to not being accessible at all. It just delisted means you can no longer purchase it. But if you have previously purchased it, it should be still there. Game Pass blurs the lines with that, because if you've got it on Game Pass and you play on Game Pass and it gets delisted, but you've played the DLC, what's the situation there? I'd like to think that if it's on Game Pass and you've bought DLC for it, they should just shoehorn it into your account.
Give you the game seems to be
because they're not going to make money off it if it's been delisted, so there's no reason why they couldn't. And it's just an easy PR win, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, we had a similar story the other week of Gran Turismo Sport. Was the DLC was getting delisted and it was shutting down its online servers, but I think that's different. Shutting down your servers, and getting rid of additional content is kind of just wrapping the game's life cycle up. I think, whereas getting rid of it completely seems extreme.
I think it's part of the natural lifespan of multiplayer games eventually, because you can't keep servers for every single game that's ever been made going forever. Servers do get repurposed for other stuff, which just means unfortunately games do disappear within the multiplayer space. I don't think there is any way to avoid that. So,
what about good reviews, though, Rick?
Good reviews. Twinfinite, 10 out of 10. Where so many games make me feel like I'm left wanting, Forza Motorsport left me feeling excited for the future. Sure, they'll continue to add cars, tracks and races to this exciting title, but seeing where we are now compared to where I thought was the top was nearly a decade ago leaves me feeling hopeful that this technology continues to press forward. Forza Motorsport will always be right there pushing it. Similar themes coming out actually compared to Games Radar, where
I think,
noting that maybe the content isn't much there, but rather than being a bit pessimistic about it and going, oh well, I wish there was a bit more, Twinfinite are going the other way and going, well, there could be more, but I'm actually excited to see what comes.
Yeah, so, that's definitely the thread I've picked up. It's fantastic, but maybe a bit shallow at this point. Yeah,
but if it's the start of a platform, and as we said, if they start bringing in 7 content, 6 content, 5 content, so on and so forth, we could be sat here in 2 years' time going, actually, this is the biggest, most complete Forza Motorsport game that there ever has been.
Yeah.
So I think
it doesn't go down the Halo Infinite route.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't seem like this is the case with this. This seems actually good on arrival in terms of the core mechanics and the playability of the game seems to be absolutely rock solid here. It just seems the grumbles are just about the amount of content on launch, which I think I'd rather a very polished game that just needs a bit more content adding rather than a mess that has tons of content that you don't want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So Forza's back. Starfield's a smash hit. Are Xbox on good track heading into Christmas then?
Yeah, I'd say so. This is what we're
compared to 6 months ago, right?
Oh yes. Remember when we talked about Redfall? Actually, Redfall's in the news this week.
It is in the news. Should we do you want to just jump quickly into that? Because it's not a huge story.
It's still shit. No, I don't know. I haven't read the article yet.
All right. So Redfall's got an update. Includes performance mode on the Series X and S.
Hey.
Reading from Pure Xbox, the time has finally come. Bethesda has quietly pushed out a massive update 2 for Redfall today, which includes the long-awaited performance mode, along with a whole bunch of additional improvements. There's a whole lot to dig into, so let's have a look at some of it. So there's improvements to performance and stability, UI improvements, quite a few accessibility options. I recommend people go to Pure Xbox to read the full breakdown because I'm not going to go into everything.
There's literally like 100 bullet points.
Yeah. It is actually more than I realised. Gameplay, I think this is one of the things where... In fact, let's just talk this in concept. What do you think they need to do to get Redfall going again? Because I'm not sure where there was anything they could do.
They need to like pay me money to play it. Like that's the only way I'm.
But it's free. You've already got it for free.
No,
that's their problem.
I need like a cash incentive
financial
to play this game because like, why would you care at this point?
Yeah, it's the fact that they quietly push the update out, right? Tells you that like they don't really have any faith in it. So why should we as an audience?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm normally quite forgiving when a game launches for me, bugs and kind of performance perspective. That's one thing, but
I don't think the bugs
the
and
actual core mechanics of the game was just
bland.
Shit. Like it's like
there's fun to be had.
No way around it.
I think there was fun to be had in Redfall, but again, going back to the initial conversation we were having around launches, I always felt this was marketed wrong. This was marketed as like a AAA title along the side of a Forza, of a Starfield, where if this was just a quiet games as a service title that came out in between bigger titles that didn't have the massive pressure on it from an absolute just dearth of titles in Xbox first party, I think this would have been reviewed in a very different light. I think because there is fun to be had, it's just not that interesting of a game. And
I guess I give them credit for following through and actually releasing the 60 FPS version, like they said. But I wouldn't have blamed them if they just cut the losses completely.
I think it just felt like at the time of launch, Xbox was in a really bad place. So a lot of pressure was put on this title to kind of like step up to the mark when it clearly was just not the game to do that. I think right from the base concept of the game, it just was not the game to do what it needed to do. If it came out now, I think it's a different story. With all these patch updates, so with the 60 frames per second mode, so it's not going to come under pressure for that. Bear in mind, this was Xbox's first big title on the current first party title on the new generation of hardware. To not have like 60 frames per second at launch, it's kind of people like, why? What's the point of the Series S and X if it's not better than the Xbox One?
They had it on the box, remember?
Yeah.
Told you 60 frames on the box. But I think it is interesting like how the pendulum swings to think if Starfield had came out before Redfall, and then we got this, and then maybe Forza afterwards, and this was sandwiched between them, I feel like there would be a lot more kind of patience when it comes to it. But the order in which it released, I feel like Redfall, Microsoft knew what they had. The team knew the kind of state it was in, and they were like, right, let's just get this out, and we'll just enjoy the hype of... Because they again, as you said, Forza was a given. We knew that was going to be great. They obviously had so much faith in Starfield to give it its own 40-minute direct back in the summer. So I feel like they just looked at all three and went, right, throw this one out to the Lions, let the audience and crowd have at it, and we'll just like ride the success of the other two and then start from there. And I feel like that's very much what unfortunately has happened to Redfall. I don't think anyone will care about it ever again in the future.
Yeah. I think I doubt there'll be any more coming from Redfall. Maybe a few small patches here and there, but I just can't really see like Arcane. Was it Arcane?
Arcane, yeah.
Yeah, I can't really see Arcane wanting to stick around with Redfall because it wasn't really their bread and butter, this style of game. This was
we know from those leaks Dishonored 3
is
in the works, so let them just go back to that.
Yeah, this might just be a case of we've promised these things, we'll get it done, right. It is what it is. It's on Game Pass. It might find itself a bit of a cult following because, again, people still play things like Left 4 Dead, so there's stuff in this game that you can have a good time with. But if you're into that style
Blade DLC.
Yeah.
Change the game into a Blade game, and then we're good.
I mean...
Just drop Wesley Snipes, like, sound bites over
Yeah. Not even him recording fresh audio, just clip it straight from the movies and just put them in there. Like, that cheap budget.
But, you know, like, I don't know why Duke Nukem's come to mind, but you know how it's got that kind of low fidelity audio, like when he talks? You have it like that, so I even just compress the hell out of his audio, so it's like distorted and stuff.
I had some of those LAPD pigs in there.
Yeah.
Or the what was it, Lard on the pigs in Duke Nukem. Just add them in there. That'd make Redfall more fun, just killing police cops of pigs, do it.
Yeah, anyway, that's Redfall. There is an update, so if you've been hanging around waiting to see what Redfall's all about, waiting for that 60 frames per second patch, it's out there now. It's on Game Pass. Fill your boot, have a good time. I think there is some fun to be found. I don't doubt we'll ever be jumping back in. Unless it has like a No Man's Sky kind of redemption arc. But I'm not expecting it here. Rob, you've been playing Cyberpunk. Have you played Phantom Liberty?
So I think for anybody who's not involved in the Cyberpunk kind of ecosystem anymore, it's important to distinguish between two things that have happened to this game over the past like couple of weeks. So the 2.0 Cyberpunk base update dropped for everybody like who has the game. Essentially like a big mega patch, which in its own right could be called like a, you know,
they fixed the game.
Yeah, that essentially changes a hell of a lot of core mechanics, a lot of the issues that people had, and essentially makes the game closer to what I think we all expected when it launched. So that's dropped, and then also Phantom Liberty dropped kind of a couple of days later or something like that. So because I played Cyberpunk on Stadia originally, more fool me, I've had to kind of go back into base game Cyberpunk and kind of do that content again. The trouble is, it's been so long since I played the original Cyberpunk, which I can't remember what is updated from the game compared to what was there on launch. But you
remember Pan Am?
Oh yeah.
I was Judy.
Working my way to that tank scene. That's what I'm saying, right? But like the base game content which I'm playing through now it's just fantastic. Like there's definite things I noticed which are new, which like the police chase system's way better and things like that, and combat feels just I
don't recall the police that much in Cyberpunk, but there again I was quite law abiding. When I did break the law, I was like quite subtle about it, quite stealthy. Yeah. So I never really got caught, so I never ended up in a massive police chase.
They're also that bad though, right? I remember the police trying to chase me, and all I'd have to do was go down some steps, and they'd like be like, "Oh, where's he gone? We've lost him." And I was like, "Great!" And then they'd appear through like then they just come through a wall in the alleyway that I'd ran down, and I'm like, "Oh, there he is!" It's like you can't just naturally move through a wall and expect me to hide.
So that's much better now. So I'm really loving it, and I haven't actually touched any of the Phantom Liberty content. But again, from what I hear, it's very, very good. But I'm putting more hours into the base game because of the Stadia issue at the moment. But what I would say is anybody who perhaps didn't like the game when it first came out, like definitely go back to it and try it again, because the 2.0 update does a hell of a lot.
It has my
Have you
interest.
got Phantom Liberty included then? Is it like part of the bundle you bought? Or?
I just bought it at the same time, just because I was like on the store, and I was like, well, I might as well check out both. So
yeah, I've heard it's like naturally woven in, so it's not like a DLC where it's separate. I think there's a place called Dogtown where it's like a separate part of the map. It's like naturally evolves as part of the main campaign. So I've heard a few people like similar to Richie who finished the game doing Phantom Liberty is a bit odd because it almost like takes place mid-story of the main game. Yeah, so you don't know whether it's like a fever dream or it's actually happening now, but you've finished the story, so it's probably better for you actually to start with the base game and work you up to that natural unlocking of the DLC.
Definitely.
I'd say the same. If I was to jump back in Cyberpunk now, I'd want to just go fresh start, because it's been so many years. It's been like, 2-3 years or something since I played it. Mm-hmm. That it's like
2020.
I don't really like going back to playing old characters because I never know where I am. I never know. You don't have that muscle memory for all your your moves and stuff. So I'd almost like prefer if I was to jump back in to go clean slate. Yeah. But we actually have 2 news stories around Cyberpunk. The first one we'll go into, which is probably a bit small because there's very little information about it, is basically the Phantom Liberty team is going to be heading up the Cyberpunk 2, the sequel.
Makes sense.
Phantom Liberty is pretty much getting 9s and 10s across the board, so...
Yeah, plus you'd imagine the main team have moved on to the next Witcher project. Like once, like you've got your team left working on like patches and 2.0, you've got your DLC team. You'd imagine the rest of it moved on to like start hard graft on the next Witcher title.
You have to think that team is kind of like just go, okay, let's fix what Netflix has just done, and then just like
yeah.
But Netflix. Oh, from the Witcher. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like how much they butchered that, and then.
I haven't watched the newest season. I just...
Don't.
I enjoyed the first 2 seasons, and I was just like, yeah.
Just end it there, Richie. Go back to the books or the game if you want.
Was it that bad?
Yeah.
Well, you know what might correct the problems from CD Projekt Red's Netflix adaptation of The Witcher? CD Projekt Red's live-action adaptation of Cyberpunk?
It might. We don't know if it's a movie or a TV show, though, do we? They just said live action of some sort.
I don't even know. What... Because there's very little information. What would you actually like to see?
It's an interesting one because they use like proper actors. So if you told me they've got Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba on board for a Cyberpunk movie, I think that could be great.
That would sell just from the star power. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, Cyberpunk I feel like is inherently got... It's cool. Like Cyberpunk, like the world of Cyberpunk is cool, and it's what people like look to, like Blade Runner style. But then it's like, are you getting too close to the game adaptation? Do you do something different? Because did you both watch Edge Runners on Netflix?
I never watched Edge Runners.
The anime.
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, the anime is just fantastic, Rob. If you ever get, it's what, 20-odd minute episodes, Richie, for maybe like 8 or 9, I think. I don't think it was that long.
It's really good.
I blitzed through it in like 2 days. It's one of the best animes, and I'm not like a big anime guy. I have thoroughly enjoyed that. Probably put it up there with the Castlevania anime series as well. Which is great. So they can tell unique stories, and it's got nothing associated with the game. It's just in that world.
I mean,
so like if you like the world and the characters and calling people tunes and having cyberware in your head and the crazy like conglomerate companies and stuff that are running the place, then yeah, I think it could tell a great story anyway.
I think with the Cyberpunk anime Edge Runners, it's worth noting that although I think it was Studio Trigger, I think it might have actually been a Japanese animation studio doing it, but it's very clearly got a Western audience in mind. So a lot of the stuff that put people off about like anime stuff, where it goes very, very Japanese, very Asian, it's not that thing. It's Cyberpunk. It's just with an anime art style to it, and I think it just works really well.
It did work really well. In terms of a show, though, I guess
you'd need a huge budget.
Do you think?
Yeah, like to bring Night City to life, like with all the like cybernetics and stuff, and you're gonna have to have some action scenes and stuff. That's gonna cost a lot.
But in terms of like production, I'd imagine they'll just go to somewhere like Shanghai or like New York or somewhere that looks like a cyber city anywhere, and then just digitally crank the neon up to 1,000. And like when you think like the Witcher production, like there's a lot of like monsters and prosthetics and stuff. A lot of this is just people with like maybe like a mechanical arm and neon lights everywhere for the most part.
It's everything from like the vehicle design to cybernetics to weapon design. Absolutely everything is non-standard. So I think it would be
if they'd like did like a bad version of it, like Johnny Mnemonic style kind of
cardboard hands. And
I was thinking about, I think it'd be quite interesting if they could get Keanu Reeves on board and just tell basically Johnny Silverhand's story. So almost like a prequel to the main game. That's how you can get like, okay, we're going to get Keanu Reeves, he's going to be the star of it. Well, obviously, with Cyberpunk, you're playing as your personal made character, which is a blank slate character. That's quite hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, considering where Keanu Reeves is on his career now, like I'd argue he's probably at like a height of action credibility, right? With like the way John Wick's going.
That's it. He's got the action chops. He's got the action chops to pull it off.
Yeah, and he'd probably sell. Like they would sell just based on his star power, I think.
Yeah.
And then Idris Elba's no mean.
Yeah, but
Slum as well. Like,
the thing is, you could work Idris. I haven't played Phantom Liberty, so I don't know how the stories interact. But you could potentially bring Idris Elba into the story as well as another character. But
it can be DLC movie. You go watch the one with Keanu Reeves, and then they bring out like a 40-minute movie afterwards. You go see as an attachment.
Imagine if they went right Cyberpunk. It's going to be like 10 episodes, each roughly an hour long, and it's going to be co-starring Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba. Like as a prequel to the games. Like, yep, I'm in.
From purely a business standpoint, you'd imagine it's got to go on Netflix, right?
Oh, it seems to be the relationship there, yeah.
And yeah, you know, Netflix would probably throw some money at it. But then again, I'd be very curious to see when this finally does see the light of day, how it impacts the sales of the game, because we saw The Witcher benefit hugely every time a new season dropped. The sales shot through the roof. It's got that natural synergy.
That could absolutely be absolutely perfect as well for Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, a lot of criticism on launch for it being a broken mess, rightfully so. It did sell a lot, but there's probably a lot of returns in there as well. And then the game's had its redemption arc. Now, if you get if you get out a live action TV show on Netflix, people jump into it. We saw a boom from Edrunners, but I think a live action would have a bigger spike, and then people go, "Oh, that game." People Google the game, realize it's now getting like 10s out of 10s for the DLC. It's actually a solid game now. People, I think you could see a huge spike in sales, and if you time it for Cyberpunk 2 as well.
And I think again, like, just credit to CD Projekt Red. I mean, they had like a near infallible reputation prior to Cyberpunk coming out with like what they'd done for The Witcher and The Witcher.
It came out a
DLCs.
year and a half too early. That was the problem. It
Exactly
just came out
that,
too
right.
early. It wasn't done.
Yeah. So again, I feel like there's like a lot of talk online where it's like, oh, the game's getting popular again. It's like, oh, well, there's no consequences for bringing like out broken games before. But it's like,
there was a lot of consequence in this.
yeah, and like
Just look at Redfall.
Yeah, like companies can only like handle the mistakes and then kind of rectify them. They can't, you know, like you have to give them credit for turning it around and actually putting the resource behind. Because it would be very easy just to be like, okay, Witcher 4.
I mean, the game's past 25 million copies sold, with Phantom Liberty selling 3 million itself. That's a lot. That's a lot of copies.
How many of those 25 do you think were refunds?
20? No.
All them poor PS4 people who bought it, and all the Stadia people who got their money back.
Yeah, technically,
Oh,
I'm a refund because I don't currently own the game. I got the money back.
Don't beat yourself down like that, Richie. You're better than that. I'm a refund.
Yeah. The thing is, I think compared to like Redfall, where you look at Redfall and go, the problems with the game is the fundamental game design. Not much you can do about that. You look at Cyberpunk and go, there's a fundamentally great game in here. It was just very rough around the edges. Mm-hmm. So like you polish it up, you give it a soft relaunch, which is effectively what we're seeing going through right now, and suddenly you have a hit on your hands.
Yeah. Even just the scope of the games, to think like, knowing like, we joke again about Redfall, but the scope of Cyberpunk in comparison to Redfall, are we surprised it didn't run that well on the Series S or the Xbox One? Like, realistically, like, knowing how they can't even get their own in-house games to run well.
If the
on certain
PlayStation
hardware.
4 was the biggest culprit.
Exactly. And Cyberpunk, like, with the scope and the size of it,
they should never even try.
No, they shouldn't. But in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing, eh?
Yeah. Well, moving on, Chris, you've been playing Assassin's Creed Mirage.
I have. The next entry in the 15 years worth of Assassin's Creed franchise. I actually noticed when I booted up the game, they do a beautiful MCU-style intro to the world of Assassin's Creed, where it's got all of the outlines of every assassin in gold against a black backdrop with some epic music playing, and then it all kind of like folds into like an animus arch, and it says like Assassin's Creed 15. I was like, damn, 15 years I've been playing this franchise. And some great moments along the way. But yes, Assassin's Creed Mirage originally started as DLC for the long-running Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which came out 3 years ago nearly, guys. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is nearly 3 years old. So Ubisoft obviously pumping the brakes a little bit on the annualized releases, which is what got them into bother in the first place. And we've got Assassin's Creed Mirage, the return to their roots, as Ubisoft have been touting it, a smaller, compact game focused on stealth and story, as opposed to a big sprawling Witcher-esque RPGs they've been known for in the last 3 entries. I've played about 3 to 4 hours with Basim, the main character who some people might know from Valhalla, and I'm absolutely loving it. As kind of, I guess I expected, as being a long-time Assassin's Creed fan. Even though it's not a big open-world RPG, I think this was the kind of thing what I was ready for. Knowing Spider-Man's out soon and the busy year that they've had, the prospect of playing like 120 plus open world game would have been a bit more daunting. That's still not going to put me off playing Red when we get feudal Japan Assassin's Creed open world. That I cannot wait for that. But for now, like I said, I'm a few hours in. I've done a couple of campaigns, and it is very much back to the stealth. Like, I've barely done any like open combat, I would say. It's been sneaky, tag everyone in the base, scout out your approach, and it's actually, in a lot of ways, it's almost like refine it to a Hitman style approach, where last night I took down one of the kind of targets, as you do in Assassin's Creed games, and I had 3 different options to approach it. Could speak to different people, I could bribe people, I could find something that would benefit them to lure out the target from his hiding. And you can scout from the air with your eagle like you did in Origins, where you can tag enemies, you can see spots of interest. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I don't know if you got any questions about it regarding the gameplay, or
I've just been flicking through some of the like reviews on Metacritic, and It seems to have getting mixed, but similar. It's one of them. It seems to be getting mixed reviews, but each reviews are looking at the same features and going either it's great or it's not. Because at the moment, it's sitting, the PS5 version is sitting as a 77. With some reviews are going, it's going back to its roots, and the roots are feeling oddly dated, but stuff like that. Yeah. When other people are praising it, going back to its roots and going, this is what I want from Assassin's Creed. Is that the kind of the theme of the game? Is that if you were into the old style Assassin's Creed games, you're going to have a great time. But if you're happy with the game moving on into the more modern style...
I can see where the reviews are coming from, but it's kind of like a tale of two worlds, where it's still fundamentally Assassin's Creed. Like, I'm playing as Basim, it's his origin story, essentially. I'm welcomed into the Creed, and I'm now going on missions with like Basim's personal story and how it relates to it. Baghdad, the city looks gorgeous, it's fully realised, there's more people than ever. I would say if you've never played an Assassin's Creed game, this is probably the great jumping on point now. If obviously play this and then go and play maybe Origins, I would recommend next. But it's got all those sensibilities, but with a lot of the fat trimmed out of it. So it's like things like the skill tree. Open up the skill tree, my word, it's just got 3 skill trees, I think a total of maybe 20 skills to invest in. And it's very much like better pickpocketing abilities, better stealth mechanics, your eagle can scout things faster. So, like I think Valhalla was like 1,000 things you could branch. Stuff. Yeah, and you know what? Like that's for the length of the story I'm expecting, which I think is about 15 to 20 hours. That's kind of what I want. I don't want it to be too padded out and fleshed out. But the biggest thing for me is the approach to the story is they're called investigations. So on your main map screen, it's got the open world map, your inventory, then it's got investigations. So it starts off with you hear a rumour, you hear a story, and you've got to go actually seek out the people or the information or the notes or the evidence, essentially, to piece it together. And each kind of element of the story has 3 pieces of evidence you need to gather to reveal the next course of the story. Kind of similar to how Batman Arkham sometimes did the investigatory part. And it's given me quite a condensed story. And there are side missions that kind of pop up, but they're all kind of woven in, I'd say a little bit tighter because of the nature of the smaller story. So I'd say if you've enjoyed the big open world games, you'll still get something out of this because it's a great tale through history featuring assassins and Templars. If you've not played one before, it's a great jumping on point because it is so focused, I would say. After only playing it a couple of hours and been very biased because I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, I'd say it's Ubisoft doing Ubisoft, Richie. It's probably a solid 8 out of 10. Yeah. And that's a good thing. But it's not going to have to absorb 100+ hours of your life, which for a lot of people is probably very grateful.
That's one of the... There's 2 main things that I'm quite interested in Mirage about. One of them is it's because it is a smaller title, it feels a bit more kind to your own time, where I think modern Assassin's Creeds from Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla were unnecessarily large, full of stuff that the additional content in Ubisoft games, and I rarely find that interesting. A lot of it is just by the books. Here's a quest from a nameless NPC to go to an area to kill some people to come back to get some gold, which then is largely useless. And you just have a lot of stuff, or go to this place, climb up a tree, and then there you go. There's you picked up a feather. There's a lot of very bland content with it having a much shrunk down map. I feel like what I was praising Sea of Stars for earlier, how it's kind of constantly funnels you back into the story and never gives you too much stuff to do.
Yeah,
is one of the things I was excited for this, because then I always fizzle out in Assassin's Creed games. And I rarely get to the point where I go, right, I've done everything I want to do, I'm done. I just get to the point where I no longer want to play it.
Fatigued.
Yeah, because there's just too much stuff that gets in it. I always find it tripping over its own feet. And the more traditional stealth-style gameplay, I think, is just missing. Where both to its... I mean, the current, with Odyssey, Origins, Valhalla, feel very generic Western-style RPGs now, and that's probably because how well they were received, that it's almost become a template. That's why they fall a bit flat. They don't do it that much interesting. The lore, though, the lore of Assassin's Creed is amazing. That's the best part of the game, by far, in my opinion, for every single title.
It's the history. I was talking, I started playing it last night while my wife was just chilling out, and again being in Baghdad and hearing different characters, different locations, the history of the city and the religion and everything mixed in and woven into the story. It does start off very like Aladdin. Like Basim's a bit of a street rat. He wants to grow up to bigger things. There's a palace and there's a king and there's the artifacts kicking around. But I think Carl Wilson sums it up if you're interested in this game. You've played the previous ones. I knew who Basim was going to become heading into Mirage. If you've finished Valhalla, you'll know. But I still found myself genuinely surprised and shocked about what happens. This is one of the most engaging narratives I've experienced in a long time since games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Ghosts of Tsushima. So that has me excited to play through the rest of the story, and I think Ubisoft could be onto quite a good thing if they have their big open worlds like Red when that comes out. But then maybe every few years between we get a smaller one. I think we've said this a couple of times on the show, but smaller entries as a aging gamer who doesn't have as much time in his life anymore. I will take an Uncharted Lost Legacy every few years. I will take a Miles Morales every few years if it means we get like little touch points for these franchises without having to commit years and years of time or patience to wait for it and my life to play it.
Focus on what makes these games truly great, and it's not a massive expanded open world. It is the strength of the narrative and how it interacts with the gameplay, and just jettison the additional stuff. But if you go for, say, like a 4-yearly cycle where every other year they bring out a smaller title, then so in years bring out a smaller title, then a bigger title, smaller title, bigger title. Like, so you get two games every 4 years, a smaller and a bigger title. I think that could be a good cadence for it.
Absolutely. So, yeah. 8 out of 10 so far. Assassin's Creed Mirage. Recommended by me.
Rob, anything you want to add on to that before we move on?
Not really. I like the... It has interested me a tiny little bit. Just because I am like purely out of the Assassin's Creed world. I think like the step back to history is the thing that kind of pulls me back in, because like without kind of sounding too like harsh, I think for most people of our generation, like a city like Baghdad isn't a city of where we appreciate the history. So we see it as like a very much modern.
Yeah, I think our knowledge of Baghdad starts with the war in Iraq.
Exactly right. So it'd be really good to see.
Is Baghdad Iraq or was Afghanistan? Sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I thought so. I had that moment of doubt.
But it still does that classic thing where, as I'm walking around, there's like fragments of like animus stuff in and around the city, and they're called historic artifacts or something, and you collect them, and it immediately defaults you to the menu screen, which tells you a little factoid about the city, the time, the rule, the emperor, and like. Yeah, again, they've done it in loads of them, and it's just that little touch point where I think if you have an inherent interest in history, you'll appreciate the layers of the game and the research that went into it. Because I think you're right, Rob. It's crazy to think I'm sat playing a AAA game that is essentially talking about characters, voice actors, the story, the world. They're using language. They often use phrases like goodbye and stuff in I want to say Arabic, but I might be wrong with that. In their native tongue and language, and it's like in today's world, it's surprising that that's as accepted as it is. But I guess video games are more willing to accept changes in different stories.
Yeah. I have heard that if you actually switch the language to Arab, there is a lot of like idioms and stuff that are like culturally relevant references to obviously that era of the world. So if you are a native speaker, you'll probably get a lot out of it from that. Yeah,
and to sum up, going back to like the original, like. The biggest thing I always remember from Assassin's Creed early games is that little message at the start where this game was created by, I can't remember the exact word.
It's multicultural, multi-faith.
Yeah. I think this game looks to get back to that, which is always nice. Because I remember do you remember Mr. Smith, our history teacher in secondary school? He got really like annoyed at me asking all these questions about ancient Italy when Assassin's Creed 2 came out. He was like, this is not in the curriculum. I don't know where you're getting this from, but just like, move on.
That's weird for a teacher. He's like, oh, I'm interested in history. He's like, no, you're interested in the wrong bit of history. It's World War II now.
You just didn't know the answer. It wasn't in the curriculum, so yeah. You love it. But Assassin's Creed, I think it's always got that spot. Interesting enough, the physical game, did come with a map. Of Baghdad, and I was like, I was trying to think, when was the last game you got that came with a map?
Yeah,
it's probably GTA, right? GTA always came with them.
Witcher 3 came with a map, the physical release. I've definitely got a map of the Witcher. Of Northern
Pokemon
Realms.
Games used to come with a map occasionally, right? As well, I feel like I've seen one or two Pokemon maps. Or maybe just posts on a wall. Let us know in the comments below what the last map you got in a game was.
So we mentioned ABK at the start of the show. I think this is a very quick news story. I don't want to get too in depth into it, like 55 minutes into the show. It looks like we might have a final completion next week. or rather this week by the time you're listening to this.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Until I'm playing Call of Duty on Game Pass, I am not believing anything these lawyers or spokespeople say for these representative brands.
Yeah. So, reading from The Verge, Microsoft is planning to finalise a $68.7 billion proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard next week. A source familiar to Microsoft's plans tells The Verge that the company is eyeing up Friday, the 13th of October. Terrible dates. As the closing date where it announces to the world that the 20-month process to buy Call of Duty maker Activision Blizzard is over. So hopefully next week on this very show we'll be going, it's finally happened.
I think we should just not even acknowledge it. I think we should just move on. It's finally happened and we're like, yeah, it's over. Friday the 13th.
Why would you even do that? You might as well just put the contract in a box of snakes.
Maybe that's the problem. This is the last hurdle. They need to figure out how to get past the snakes. They solved the riddle of the Sphinx. Let's just move on quickly to The Last of Us Part 2, Chris. Is it getting a remaster?
Probably. It seems to be the norm for PlayStation now. They go and do that double dip feature. Of course, The Last of Us timeline is we got Part 1 remaster made in the same kind of engine and body shapes of the second one, and then now we're going back to the second one to rebuff it again. It never had a PS5 release, which seems crazy to say in the timeline of things. In my brain, it looks so good. It is a timeline thing because, weirdly enough, I sat there again playing Mirage last night, and there was a couple of cutscenes, and I did say to my wife, because she loves The Last of Us, and a game that's now 4-year-old nearly, still looks infinitely better than Mirage in nearly every aspect and manner, and that's obviously the difference between first party and Ubisoft how to make for multiple platforms. But the fact that this game still came out so much later, Mirage being on the new platform, and a PS4 game still looks every way, shape or form during the cutscenes, from mannerisms to micro expressions to voice acting. It's just so much better. And again, this game getting a PS5, not Game of the Year edition, but a PS5 release, no surprise. What I am surprised, and I think Naughty Dog probably wanted to time it like this game should have realistically launched as a Game of the Year edition or award edition with factions built into it. But factions is still fucking who knows where.
It seems like it's been deprioritized as well. There's rumours that they've taken people off the project, so...
But they've been working on it for 3.5 years. It was supposed to be there at launch for 2 until it's apparently became its own thing, like Mirage did. Now we've got
Which
Mirage.
It probably shouldn't have become.
So yeah, timeline-wise, Last of Us Part 2 came out in the summer. Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out in the winter. We've now got Mirage, which was Valhalla DLC. Factions was a spin-off from Last of Us, so that the timeline now should be due.
Is it quality, not quantity? Although I think Fractions is not a quality situation. This is a...
No, Fractions is Division.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, anyway.
Terrible maths joke there.
I know. You threw me off. You completely just blew my mind.
Just
it's Monday morning.
Take 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, 5 seconds to appreciate how well Naughty Dog games age.
Yeah.
I was just I don't know, for some reason I had Uncharted 4 installed on my PS5, and even that game is what,
2015, 16, I think.
Yeah, that game.
Yeah, 15. Then Lost Legacy was 16.
Yeah, that game still looks insane. Even now, Naughty Dog games have a magic about them.
There's a moment, I think it's when you're in the prison area fairly early in the game, and you climb up the tower and you get that massive vista over the bay. It's with all the trees and stuff. There was a moment when I first did that and looking, video games are bloody beautiful, man.
They do well for that. Yeah, nearly 8 years since that game. We need another one. I hope Bluepoint are where. I know Bluepoint did the remaster, but I'd love a remaster of the original 3 again. Oh, yeah. It's been so long, though. Time has passed.
If you're going to do the original 3, I think you remake them, not remaster them.
2, yeah.
Because they actually play okay. Well, 1's a bit janky in places. Yeah. They learned a lot between 1 and 2. But from 2 onwards, they play absolutely fine. They just look a bit dated. But even then, they're very playable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about that Last of Us 2 getting a remaster.
Oh yeah, that was it.
But if
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
If it's just a remaster for the PS5, you know, a few extra bells and whistles, a bit more polish.
Give us a map.
Was Last of Us running at 60 frames per second, or was it only 30 in the 4K mode?
No idea.
If they get 4K 60 with like HDR and like potentially things like ray tracing and stuff, make it the absolute best. Because gameplay wise, there's not really much to change, is there? Just leave it alone.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say they need to be very wary of is if they're doing a PC release as well.
Make sure it works. Make sure it's
because
good.
Remember, that was the one time I think Naughty Dog have messed up is on the remaster PC release was janky AF for a Naughty Dog game. So
they probably just need a separate team dealing with the port. Like, let Naughty Dog just focus on the PlayStation versions and have Sony build an internal team that deals with the ports from PlayStation to PC.
They have. That's why they acquired Nixes, right? Who were working on the Helldivers port. They've just put some. What was the most recent game that came out on PC? I can't remember it, but it's Nixes. Yeah, they acquired them specifically for PC ports. So
all right. Then
they've brought in the experts.
Hold them to the standard and go, look, make them play the PS2, the PS4 version. Go, this is the minimum standard that this game has to run on PC. On relatively modern hardware. You have to set limitations on PC. I'd say like on a 2060 graphics GPU or equivalent, it should run as good as the PS4 version. That seems like a reasonable base standard.
If it's rumoured as well, they might as well sit on this until the HBO show starts ramping back up again, right? Because that's going to focus on the second game. So you might as well wait for that audience synergy like we were talking about earlier with The Witcher. And just don't rush it out. Just
wait till
get
it's
more
back in
out
the
of it.
zeitgeist.
Absolutely, which is probably going to be another 2 years away at this point. Yeah. Because of the writer's strike and stuff. So they have time. Patience is a virtue.
Patience is a virtue indeed, and I have no idea where I'm going with this transition, so I'm just going to keep talking. Luna, Amazon Luna, you can now buy.
Patience
games.
comes in.
Patience is screwed us again and again.
Yeah, you can now seemingly buy games on Luna, which seems like a weird statement, but so reading from Amazon's Twitter or X page, if you prefer. Get your favourite games and keep them too with Amazon Luna's new feature, purchase and play Ubisoft games on Luna. I love how it's like the newest feature on our gaming platform is the ability to buy games.
Yeah, like you can keep them, guys, don't worry.
Prime or Luna Plus subscription is still required though.
Yeah, that's the big caveat. So they did tweet out originally, because thankfully someone called Dana in the kind of sub-tweets screenshotted it, and their original tweet, Richie, said, have your cake and eat it with Amazon Luna's new feature, buy and play Ubisoft games without any subscription needed. What are you sinking your teeth into first? And used the same imagery, and then deleted it, and mere minutes later retweeted it saying there is actually a Prime or a Luna Plus subscription required. So either the social media accounts manager fucked up, or
someone was
they
given
backtracked
the wrong information. And this is the one that makes you scratch your head, is do you not have people like verifying this information before it goes out? Because this is a big statement from them.
Yeah.
Do you not have like whoever's like writing the tweet? Are they not showing it to someone else to proofread it for content before it goes out? Because Amazon are a massive corporation.
No, I know exactly how this works. Like you send it to somebody like on a little ticket saying, "Oh, can you proofread this?" And
they go, it's fine.
They just click complete, and then it's like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, that's good to go." And then nobody takes accountability. That's exactly how it works.
It's a bad look, but then off the back, if the one they're running with is you need a Luna or Prime subscription, why even do this anyway? Like, what if you're letting people buy the games and be purchasable? Don't undermine that buy. So what happens if you buy the game and then you cancel your Luna Plus subscription? Can you not play the game you've bought for full price?
Yeah,
Seems bizarre, doesn't it?
My theory behind this is you're paying your Prime or Luna Plus subscription is giving you access to the platform rather than buying a console. So Ubisoft are probably getting a pretty healthy split of the revenue. So if you've bought a Ubisoft game, more of that revenue is probably going to Ubisoft. In fact, like I have some purchased Ubisoft games from Ubisoft Plus for the PC versions, which I can just play on Luna as long as I got a Prime and Luna Plus subscription. That kind of already exists. This is just adding the ability to purchase the game.
So I basically sign up for a month, buy the game, cancel my subscription, and still play the game.
Well, no, you still need the subscription to.
But I've bought the game for full retail price though. Why should I have to be subscribed to play a game? Like, this is back to the Stadia problem with the original Stadia base. It's like you're asking people to pay more money just to use the platform. If I buy a PS5, it functions as a PS5 with the games I buy.
Yeah, but you're not buying a platform in this sense. You instead of paying a one lump sum of a few £100 to buy a console, you're paying a subscription fee. That'll be how Amazon's thinking about it. I don't like it. I think it should just be a case of if you want people. Considering their biggest issue is getting people into the platform, I think it's worth taking how much money they're actually going to raise by having you forcing people into Prime or Luna Plus.
If you're putting the caveat on that's going to force people to second guess their purchase, like, oh, so I need to keep. So now it's the cost of the game plus if I want to play this game for a couple of weeks, like beyond a month or two, it's asking me for more money. So that game inherently becomes more expensive just to play it. Which, if you make your audience second guessing a purchase, they're going to go elsewhere. And this is the problem Stadia had, is people are like, oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to overcommit to it, especially such a young platform that we don't know what the future looks like. So they'll go back to their safe zone, which is their Xbox, their PlayStation, their Switch. And then I just think it's a bad.
For no downside as well, they'll go back to those safe spaces. There's no benefit to jumping over to Luna. You just get more risk.
Yeah, I even just had the thought of like, well, what if instead you've already, instead of trying to get new people in, what if they went to people who already have Amazon Prime and went, hey, here's a one-off bonus, send you an email, one-off bonus, click here to claim Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey or something. Mm-hmm. Click it, you've got it, it's now in Luna, you already have Amazon Prime, that's why we've emailed you, you can now play this game there, to drive people from who already have Prime into the platform.
Yeah.
But I think the problem with Luna is the same problem Stadia had. You can show them all the reasons why you should look at this platform as a viable option, but then they get in there, look at the catalogue and go, where's the games?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't get over that.
Yeah. And if you want this just to be a Ubisoft Plus platform, then you just need to buy Ubisoft Plus. You don't need Prime or Luna to do that. So, I don't know. I think they need content.
I'm going to ask them on Twitter.
If
I purchase Assassin's Creed Mirage, then cancel my Prime/Luna Plus subscription, do I lose access to the game I've purchased for full price? ? That sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if you get a response, but
Luna team are really good with responses, I will say. But the convoluted complications in my question might make them just skip on this one, so we'll get back to you.
I wonder if it'll just add it to your Ubisoft Plus account. So, like, effectively a PC version of the game.
But I want to play it on Luna. That's why I bought it on Luna. Either way, we digress. It's a great feature, but it should just be that. I don't pay for any other features. It should just be included. But either way, it's good to see a big game coming to it, and I'm guessing they're going to promote the hell out of it because it's the only AAA title they've got this year to date, if I'm right in thinking.
That's Assassin's Creed Mirage, yeah.
Yeah. And the crew. They did get the crew too, so shout out to Ubisoft.
Ubisoft's still supporting Luna, but again, it's suffering from Stadia-itis. It just needs more. To become viable, it needs content.
You just coin a phrase for
Stadia.
Yeah, I did.
Stadia-itis is the... What would be the definition in the dictionary for Stadia-itis?
Stadia-itis is when you've got a good concept for a platform, but it's lacking the content to become viable.
Right, wow.
Dash Mr. Chapman, MD of Stadia.
Yes.
Of Stadia.
I think we'll call it here, unless there's any other big stories that you just want to jump into now, because we're over an hour into the show.
Some more layoffs in the industry, standard
Telltale.
practice, some new game things coming out. The only oddball one for me, I guess, that ties into a little bit is the Sony announced on their blog the PlayStation Core streaming service, which I know it's not like purely video games, but it's on the PlayStation. I think it's their attempt at... Like, they've never quite had a Netflix thing, but basically I think Sony are going to take all of their IP, I think, because they're having success with, like, HBO shows and the movies at the moment. take them all, and on your PS4, your PS5, they're basically launching a new Sony Pictures Core, is the name of the app. It was previously Bravia Core, which comes with the smart TVs, and you just get a library of movies like Venom, Jumanji, Uncharted, Gran Turismo included.
So the one interesting thing that they've said is that some of the higher tier PS Plus plans might get like a select amount of titles for free, but I think it's going to be more kind of Looper and less like Spider-Man, like Far From Home type of content on that front. But it does kind of raise the question, like, should it just be a big multimedia platform?
It seems like that's where they want to go with it, but they don't want to commit to it. Like, if this was a perk of PlayStation Premium that I could go to the cinema and watch Gran Turismo when it came out earlier this year, or as a PlayStation Premium member, I could watch it on my PS5 using this Sony Pictures Core app because the movie was there. If they're going to say it's available to purchase, I just go to the cinema if I have to pay more money. But if it was included, that would be quite a good perk, because they do have, as we know, like Ghostbusters, Uncharted, Gran Turismo, the future Ghost of Tsushima Horizon content. If that was free and included in the premium app, that would be a much better, richer feature than game trials or cloud saves or something like that. So, but again, Sony just don't know what they want to do with this kind of stuff, do they?
Reading from the PlayStation blog, if you're a PlayStation Plus or Dulux member, you'll get access to a curated catalogue of up to 100 movies through the Sony Pictures Core app to stream on demand from Sony Pictures Library as part of your membership. The catalogue, which will be ad-free and updated periodically, features movies such as Looper. Yeah, so the first one's Looper. Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, Elysium, and Resident Evil Damnation. There will also be additional benefits for all your PlayStation Plus members, so stay tuned for more details.
Yeah.
That's a weak list of films to start with, isn't it?
It is.
We're not talking tier 1 type of content.
I'm looking at this as, and now I have access to these films as something I'm paying for gaming reasons.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, if they went with premium titles included, it could be a great service. Like, Richie, have you seen Across the Spider-Verse yet?
No.
Great movie. It's there on the picture art. Like, the key art is the top banner image, but my guarantee is that's like £4.49 to rent or $12.99 to buy in HD or whatever. And if you look at that, why would you buy it through that and not just through like another service?
The thing is that I wouldn't buy PlayStation Plus to get access to just the list of movies that I've named here, but Sony do have a lot of movies. So if they have a premium service, like a Netflix kind of thing for all Sony movies, like Disney Plus does for Disney, I think there's value in that outside of gaming. And if you get access to a fairly light version of it via PlayStation Plus, then, and potentially you could even have a combined subscription where you get both PlayStation Plus and Sony Pictures Core Plus for a single price. It could be an enticing prospect in there somewhere. But up to 100 movies, I'd like to hope some of them are better than the ones listed. But it's early days.
The headline ones that
these could be the headline ones, or they could just be the first ones they've got signed up to be dealt with, and they needed a few titles for the article.
Yeah, I mean, there's a final point on that. It does give them some interesting kind of promotional marketing opportunities. So, say they release a new, if the new Spider-Man were to come out, say this existed, they could also drop some of the movies onto that month and do a big kind of Spider-Man content bundle or something like that. So there's opportunities for it, but
you could do a thing if you're a Sony Pictures Core member, you get the Miles Morales into Across the Spider-Verse suit for Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, stuff like that could be interesting in the future.
So he's some cosmetic interplay between the two things.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they're one step away from just doing their own streaming service, but I think similar to a lot of other companies like Paramount and stuff, they don't. Yeah, they don't have enough on the. Well, it's been around for a while. They've tried this many times over the years, but I think Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus now are just way too big beyond it. I think the likes of Hulu in America, and we've got Paramount Plus over here now. Peacock is another one. I think at some point they're just all going to consolidate, and these companies are going to go, right, we've got a big library of movies, but not enough to be independent. Let's sell it. I think Sony often sell their stuff to Netflix, don't they?
Yeah,
it's their big go-to. Yeah, but either way, it's more value, I guess, added to premium.
I think
so if
Bravia,
you've got it,
Bravia car doesn't really draw people in because, like, you think of Bravia, Sony Bravia is a TV division, but it's not really great marketing for something like Sony Pictures car. I think is better.
They need to ditch their attachment to these like sub brands they've got. Stop saying Bravia like it's a thing. Stop saying Xperia like it's a thing. Just it's Sony and PlayStation are the only two credible things that you have under that umbrella.
I think that's what they're doing. I think that's literally what they're doing here by rebranding it to Sony Pictures car. Okay, you now know this is the film arc of Sony.
I feel like cars are bad. They should just went with Plus. Everyone knows what Plus means now. Saying car, I'm getting a vibe of Game Pass car.
Yeah.
It's like,
Anyway, I think that's all we have time for you this week. So thank you very much for watching. Oh, what games are in gaming history? Let's have a quick look, see if there's anything interesting before I wrap up the show.
That's how we like to round out this week.
So,
we fucked up last week, didn't we, Richie? Where we had one of the best days in history of ever in video games, and we didn't even talk about it.
I know we very quickly blew through a few. So anything interesting jumping out? Again, there's some great stuff in this week. So this is for October the 8th, which is the day we're recording, because that's how we always do this.
Time Splitters 2.
Mortal Kombat in the arcade, the original.
31 years ago for Mortal Kombat. 21 for Time Splitters 2. The original Dishonored came out 10 years ago today.
Yeah. XCOM, Enemy Unknown came out. Beyond Two Souls.
2 years ago, Metroid Dread. As if that was 2 years already.
Concrete Genie was 4 years ago.
And that team no longer exists.
Indeed.
R.I.P. Any for you, Rob?
It has to be Mortal Kombat. That started something, didn't it?
I thought you were going to say the French version of Just Dance 2014.
Oh, yeah, get down to that shit. But no, it has to be Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
like that started a very distinct, I guess, change in tone for games and what they could be, I think.
There's very few lists of games that the original Mortal Kombat in the arcades isn't a standout title on.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the de facto video games of all time, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
So Mortal Kombat for me.
You mean Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee? Wasn't up there on the game.
Not going to beat War of the Monsters for that type of genre.
Yeah, War of the Monsters is awesome.
So, some of these could be like sleeper hits that we just never knew. But that's all we have time for this week. For about the third time I've tried to end the show. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel so you're kept in the loop of all of great content here over over GamerGuildTV.
I did it.
Over at the channel formerly called Helix Players Games, formerly called Helix Cloud Games, formerly called Sounds of Sadie, and now currently called GamerGuildTV. On the YouTube and on podcast services around the globe. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you're kept in the loop. If you fancy buying a bit of merch, we have a merch store. The links are all in the description. We have a Discord server. Again, links are in the description so you can join a bunch of awesome people. Actually, our Discord this week's been talking to me about trying to convince me to buy like the 8-bit DAW adapter so I can use my original N64 controllers on my Switch. But it's like a mod kit, so I'd have to like crack them open and stuff. But
that's how they get you.
It's either I'm interested, but it's like, do I go for that or do I just buy the Switch N64 controller, which I am tempted by.
Remember at the start of before we started recording, you were like, "Oh, I'm skint. I've got no."
Yeah, I know. I am skint.
And you're like, I want to buy a new controller. I've bought a year's worth of Nintendo Online.
I mean, in Nintendo Online with the expansions, it's like 35 quid for a year.
Okay.
That's a couple of rounds of drinks. That is.
Yeah, not really. It's half of a night out.
It's medicine to stave off your stadios. Infection, stadiitis.
So the Nintendo Switch Online is about 35 quid. The N64 controller is about 35 quid. There's a night out, so I'm going for one night out, and I've got a year's worth of gaming on the N64, SNES, and NES, Game Boy Advance.
And only one of them will give you a hangover.
Yeah, the N64.
Should we caveat this week's episode that next week we probably will be hungover because we're out drinking all day?
Yeah, we are. Okay.
Our whole Saturday next week is beer festival.
Yeah. I'm going to clear pigeon shooting before it as well. I've got a busy day.
Oh, God, I'm hosting next week as well, aren't
I? You are.
Yes. So you can look forward to that. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
GG, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.